Amazing. Welcome to another episode of Cup of Joe. I'm very excited to be in front of a live studio audience today at Citizen Think Tank, the third annual think tank. Big thank you to our sponsors, Welcome Home, Active Demand, and HQ by CareWork for helping us put on this event. Very, very excited to have Crystal Miller here with Frontida.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Crystal is the owner and operator of Frontida Senior Living, and we're going to dive into a couple of things that make Frontida a little bit more unique than maybe your average senior living operator. So to start everything off, Crystal, what inspired you personally to get involved in senior living, and how did Frontida come to be?
We have an interesting story. It was 2008, and Steve and I, my husband, who's right there, Steve and I had decided several years prior that we really wanted to have freedom of owning our own business and having the freedom to take care of our family and just live maybe a little differently than some people, take some risks and do some things that were risky. But between 2001 to 2008, we did a lot of risky things and bought a lot of real estate, residential rental units. Nice. And in 2008, had about 150 rental units and different residential investments. And one of the buildings that we had was an 8-bed assisted living. So Wisconsin, there's lots of these little buildings like that. And we had all we did was we just rented it to the lady who operated it, had no idea what happened in those walls, kind of were maybe a little bit scared of it perhaps. And she stopped paying her rent, just like hundreds of other people were doing back in 2008. Yeah. Rents just stopped flowing. Right. And we went to see her. We were really worried about what to do with this building if we had to evict her. She couldn't pay her rent. Right. What was going to happen to these people who live there? So we called a realtor and said, you have to help us figure this out. You have to help us get out of this building and take care of these people. And he said, well, have you ever thought about operating assisted living? And we just kind of laughed and said, no, I don't think that's anything that's interesting to us at all. And he said, well, let me show you the numbers. And he showed us 3 buildings in Milwaukee, very distressed buildings, 320 20-unit buildings. It was all Medicaid waiver money. It was mostly mental health in really bad neighborhoods with really distressed teams. And he said, look at this, look how much money this place makes. This is a real estate investment that you can make happen. And you don't have to learn this business. You can hire someone to do this for you and you'll be fine. And so looked at the numbers. Of course, it was a pro forma. It wasn't really true. And he referred us to a woman that we hired, and we thought that we could sit at home and watch the money roll in. Right. And we were very mistaken. As you could imagine, we were very mistaken. And within a few months, realized that the woman that we hired did not share our values. Okay. And we also were determined not to fail. Right. Because in 2008, we lost all of that real estate. This was the beginning of 2009. And we said, we are not going to fail. So Steve and I looked at each other and said, how are we going to make this work? And determined in a very short time that I would go to work every single day, learn everything I could learn about this business. He would be home with our children, which allowed me the freedom to really dig in hard. Yeah. And it accomplished our goals. Like, our goal was to have freedom to be with our children, to have a parent with our children. That was important to us. Yet I didn't ever think that it would be me working 16-hour days, crying on my way to figure out how we were going to make this work. But I just showed up. I just kept showing up. And I kept asking questions, and I learned the opportunity that we have in this business to care for not only our residents, but our team members. And I'll never forget the day that I determined this is why I'm here. I am here to allow these people that we employ to see something bigger, to take the values that Frontida had from very, very beginning: tell the truth, work hard, follow the rules, love others, and we had to have fun at our 5-year anniversary. But to take those values and realize what they could do in their personal lives and how they could make a difference for generations. And the beautiful side effect is that we get to care for elderly people or people with behavioral health challenges, which we still do some of that. But the impact we can have on team members, it just truly helped me get up in the morning. And it has for now almost 17 years.
Okay, and I got to ask the question because it's just going to weigh on me. So you have 3 properties at this point in the very beginning, right? And it sounds like the challenges that existed there were real heavy challenges. And now like we've been growing ever since. So tell me, like, what has that growth looked like, and how are we, do those challenges still exist as you take on communities?
Yes, different challenges because my team is so much different and better and stronger and deeper. So we took over, and this is another funny thing, April 1st, 2009.
Right.
So April Fool's Day. In 2009, one of the most difficult years that anyone's ever had in business, we took over those operations. And by January of the following year, the state walked into one of our buildings and was there for 3 days. So 3 days in a 20-unit building. I mean, this was bad news. And I had no idea how bad it was at that time. So the woman that I had hired, she was on a 2-year contract. I was concerned about firing her. I simply just didn't want to be stuck in whatever that would mean as a battle. But when the state came in, she told me how much trouble we were in. I still didn't realize the gravity of it. But it was 6 weeks later. It was February 22nd, which incidentally was my birthday. And I woke up.
Still is, actually.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
But it was on February 22nd, on my birthday, that she sent me an email first thing in the morning, quit without notice, because she knew what was coming from the state.
Right.
And so when that survey came from the state, 3 days later, came on February 25th, I looked at it and determined that we were going to fight. And I was going to fight. And God provided people in my life, even that very week. I hired 2 people that week. One stayed with me for 10 years. One was with me for 13 years. And we fixed those problems. And I'll never forget when the state came in, they said, we've never seen an owner who hired a consultant who screwed everything up come in and fix it themselves. But we were in a world of hurt. Like financially, we were in so much trouble. So when Dawn, that was the person who I'd hired, when she walked out, I took her paycheck. And that was the first paycheck I'd had in a while. So I was so thrilled to be able to do that. But also I knew that I would care more about fixing that problem than anybody else I could possibly hire. And with the team that we put together, we fixed the challenges there. It was really challenging.
Wow.
But we kind of became known throughout the state as people who could fix problems. And so that's how we grew. People would call me and say, I heard that you can fix this problem. I've got this piece of real estate. I don't want it. Will you take it? Can you fix this? I either have someone that's not paying their rent. I've got somebody who, the building's empty, all these different challenges. And one brand new building came our direction because the guy who built it thought his wife could run it. And she finally just said, I can't do this. And those were the ways that we were able to bring strong, smart operations and good systems to the people in Wisconsin that were in trouble. And that's how we built all the real estate.
I love that. So how has Frontida's mission evolved since you started originally? And I guess what stayed constant?
I think what stayed constant is our values. I mean, I realized from that very first challenge of that survey that came, when I read it, I thought we did not tell the truth. We did not work hard. We did not follow the rules. And clearly we did not love others.
Right.
And taking those things and thinking this is the most simple way to build trust. And we decided very, very early that that's what we were going to own as a company and just work on every single day and talk about every day. I mean, values are on many, many walls throughout senior living, but I'm not sure that companies talk about them as much as we should. And it is what we do. It's not just on the wall. It's not just, I think it's actually actions that happen.
It lives in the culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
And tell the truth is not being honest.
Right.
It is not integrity. It is having hard conversations.
Right.
And when we do that, people respect it. Your team members, they will go the extra mile for you when they know you'll tell the truth. I've had people that I've fired and they still hugged me on the way out the door because they valued the way that we told the truth to help them grow.
Right. You spoke a little bit about how you ended up having to take on a role, take on a salary, and because nobody was going to fix it unless you cared more about the organization than these people who worked for you could have. But now you've built this amazing culture where these people that are working for you love doing this every single day. And it seems like that culture has evolved over time to kind of feel like you have this, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this group of individuals who almost feel like they own it with you. Is that fair
Yeah,
to say?
absolutely. I mean, we've said to our team members over the years, we are only a good place to work because you make it a good place to work.
They feel supported.
Like you, yes, and empowered.
Yeah.
And when people, like I tell people, like you're the only one that actually can create a great place to work when you come to work and you determine to tell the truth, when you determine to work hard, when you determine to love others. That is what creates a great place to work.
Absolutely.
And it was, what year was it? Maybe 2017. We first won a top workplace award, and we did it 6 years in a row. And every year it was a little bit like a nail biter to figure out, like, are we going to actually make it? And are we going to move up in the ranks? And it was just so fun to see the excitement that people had about the fact that they knew that they created it. It wasn't something that Crystal did. It wasn't something that, Steve gave them an inspirational talk on. It was something they decided to do every day.
Amazing. How has that work culture for the employees, how has that impacted what you see every day with the residents themselves?
Well, our mission to build trust is every direction.
Right.
Like, it's families, it's providers that come in our buildings, it's the physicians that we work with, certainly each other, and horizontal across the board when you're working with team members, or up and down, is every direction. And so I think residents feel that, and they feel like they are a part of something as well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think, we often talk about how, they don't live where we work where they live. And as long as we are kind of showing off that culture and showing off that love to each other, that'll extend to the residents for sure. So what are the biggest challenges that you face in senior living today in terms of staffing, regulations, that kind of stuff? And how are you going about those things?
It feels like we've beat that staffing to death.
Yeah.
And maybe because we're a little bit larger and our team is stronger, it doesn't feel as hard as it used to.
Right.
And maybe it's, I'm not actually getting the call thinking, am I going to put scrubs on today? It just feels like that is handled a bit better. I think the regulatory challenges are the things that we are as concerned about as anything. The pressures in our industry that happened throughout COVID, where staffing agencies decided they were going to eat us up.
Yeah.
That was a really frightening time.
Yeah.
And perhaps, I was like on a warpath for a while about staffing agencies like this. They are a cancer, and they fulfill their own destiny when they come in a building, the discouragement that it creates among people. So we just really tackled that hard. So I would say regulatory challenges, but then different ways of challenges of other businesses coming to try to take their piece of the pie. Right. And the pie is not very big. So what staffing agencies would be one. I think referral partners, or partners, they call themselves partners. But referral agencies, like Place for Mom is, of course, the worst offender. But we're seeing challenges throughout our state with people just... One of the challenges I'm seeing right now is referral agencies that go into the hospitals and get an office there. So they truly capture all that business, and families believe that they are actually an arm of the hospital.
Right.
So I'm really passionate about working on legislation to limit it. I'm pro-business, so it's hard to take that stance, but we have to be very proactive and stuff like that. Absolutely.
Very cool. As the population ages and needs change, what opportunities do you see for expanding and improving the model of your senior living communities?
We have a lot of standalone assisted livings, like a CBRF is what we call it in Wisconsin.
What does the CBRF stand for?
Community-based residential facility.
Okay.
So it's our licensing class.
Okay.
So a lot of standalone. And that would be different than independent living or apartment style assisted living.
Okay.
So it'd be different. So what we see in some of our communities where that's all we have is we're definitely getting beat by more of a continuum of care, where there's IL, AL, memory care, and you grab people earlier. And so that is something that I think we're going to see throughout the industry as being a winning combination,
right.
To be able to do that. And so our goal at Frontida is to grow into some of those markets and change a little bit the way we look because of that through some development and of course, managing for other owners in our state.
Right. And, your organization primarily and not primarily 100% is in Wisconsin right now.
Right now,
As
we are.
you expand, do you plan to move to other states?
That would be interesting to us. Absolutely. We are exploring that. Last year, we changed our structure significantly, hired a COO, which allowed me to really be able to focus on things that I love, which really is the culture and the organization in that way. So she has allowed us to think bigger, and that's been exciting for us. Absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool. So I love the fact that you're the head of the company and you're the queen of the culture at your organization, and that's kind of moving through. How are you keeping that throughout the communities and like making sure that Frontida way still lives in all of the different communities, even though they might be, not directly next to each other and all of that?
One of the key things that we have started the last couple of years is doing in-person engagement surveys.
Amazing.
And so that has been a beautiful opportunity for me to be one-on-one or one-on, maybe 5 or 6 team members in a space, in a casual setting, lunch or coffee or something like that, happy hour. That has been really key for us to really learn what people are thinking and solving problems that they're not complex problems. They're little things that come to the surface. And I think, well, that has an easy fix. And I'm so glad to know about it. Yeah. And so that has allowed us to just continue to be more proactive in the way that we are dealing with some of the day-to-day challenges. And for me, it is a joy to be able to be in that space and to really understand how they're feeling, to really understand the challenges that happen day to day. In those early days, I was in every building every day. I mean, I've just put the miles on for sure. And these days, I'm not in the building as often, but that has made a big difference, is just being able to be in those spaces, in those casual settings, and ask the right questions. Asking the right questions, I think, is really key.
So obviously, as you're kind of taking everything on and figuring out what challenges existed in there, being in the community as often as you were, and I believe we had maybe a private conversation at one point where we said you stayed in the community for a little while.
That was very challenging. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
It was 2017. We took over. I had a gentleman call me and said, I am the landlord of this building. I own this building. I have no idea how to run operations. It's failing. He didn't tell me how bad it was, but basically he wasn't getting paid his rent and he had to figure out how to keep these residents in place and take care of them. And so he called me and I said, yeah, we can take care of this for you. And we went in probably in way too short of time. I mean, some of these situations, you want to just make sure that doesn't get worse.
Right.
But it's really challenging to make that happen. So it was October of 2017, and we got in there and realized that this building just had a reputation that was much worse than we had anticipated. And so it was a beautiful building in an affluent community, and I realized by the summer, so it was June, I realized that unless I got into that community and shook every single hand, we would not be successful. And I in my mind, I likened it to being a politician. Like I said to Steve, I said, I'm going to pretend I'm running for office. And I'm going to go to every single coffee, every single cocktail party, every single golf outing. I'm going to volunteer everywhere in this town. And in order to do that, I did. I moved in the community so I could actually be there. And I don't ever want to do that again. But the things that I learned and the experience that I had, it changed me. It was really good. It was really, really good. And I made a difference. And 3 months later, I went back home and didn't have to sleep there again. And we changed the building. We changed the reputation and we built trust in that community.
Amazing. Okay. The last question that we have, and then we can talk about whatever you want to talk about, and we can ask the audience if you've got any specific questions. What do you want families and residents to remember about their experience with Frontida?
I want them to realize that they were in a place that they could trust. Like they want peace of mind. Right. Assisted living that you can trust is one of the things that we have said over the years. And there's nothing more that you can offer families than to be able to sleep at night knowing their loved one's taken care of, and know that if something goes wrong, we'll tell the truth. Because that's the thing that gets lost sometimes. Oh. It's one of the most simple things, yet so challenging to do. Very, very difficult sometimes to pick up the phone and tell the truth. But when you do that, it can be a really challenging, difficult thing that happened. But when you do that, people trust you because they know the next time something bad happens or something good happens, you'll let them know. And that has never failed us over all these years. It's never failed to just pick up the phone and have a difficult conversation. And there's a lot of goodness in that.
Yeah, I love that. One thing that I always consider when I think about like, leadership and things like that, people want to know that they're working for somebody who's kind of carried the bag. If you know what I mean by that. And I think in your situation, not only have you carried the bag because you were leading and taking on all those operational aspects of the role, but in a way you've carried the bag from staying in the community and you know both sides of what that looks like, right? And I think that that's probably one of the reasons that you have such an amazing culture and you're so inspiring to work with as a leader. Okay, I do actually have one more question, but I will turn it to the audience. What's the most fulfilling part of your role?
Seeing people's lives change. Like, I've never forgotten some of the stories of young women that come to me and say, Crystal, this was the best job I ever had because it changed me and it changed my family.
Right.
We used to do, and we still do some of it, but we were doing a lot of in-person kind of coaching sessions with our team members back in those early days. And this one young woman, her name was English, she was amazed that we didn't have cable. And she was like, you don't have cable? How do you don't have cable? And Steve started just sharing with her what it had meant to our family to like eat together.
Oh, you mean you personally didn't have cable?
We didn't have cable.
I thought you meant in the community.
Oh no, that would be
sure.
really, really bad.
That's
No, this was something where like we just realized there was this opportunity for some of these people that had never thought differently
right.
than the culture they grew up in.
Of course.
And so the personal opportunity of sitting with someone and just talking about a different way of life. Yeah. And she came back weeks later and said that she had a library card. She was taking her son to the library. She had learned to cook dinner, which that seems so foreign that someone wouldn't know how.
Right.
But caregivers often, I mean, it is happy meal after happy meal after happy meal. And I remember hearing that and being just dumbfounded, and then also realizing the opportunity to show a different way. And she came back and shared that she had paid off her credit card debt, that she was reading books with her child, that their behaviors in school had changed, and that the values that we were talking about at work, she was applying in her personal life. Amazing. And it was making a difference. And to this day, I know that her family will have generational change that was in effect because of the values that we decided to put in place and live and talk about and empower. And that's probably the most fulfilling thing that I have found in this industry.
Right.
So it is about the residents.
I love that.
And the opportunity to work with this segment of our population of people that care about others. It's just this intimate space that you get real with people more than any other industry, I believe. And I think the intimacy of what we do and the people that we hire that truly care for others, empowering them is easier than some other industries. And that's what gets us up in the morning.
Amazing. All right. I'm going to hand it to the audience. If you do have questions, I will repeat the question and then we'll get the opportunity to get Crystal's take. Any questions specifically for Crystal?
Oh my.
Oh, from Steve. Can you explain the in-person survey?
So we do it twice a year at every community, and we ask the leader of the community to give us, a good segment of broad, not just all caregivers, but caregivers and housekeeping, maintenance, that type of thing. And usually the best place I found is McDonald's. McDonald's breakfast is the best. I mean, yeah. It's great, but you used to work at McDonald's.
I did.
Yeah. So, and usually they're quiet because a lot of people just do the drive-through. So McDonald's is a great place to meet. And usually people are really nervous. So I just share with them that my number one goal is to find one thing in that conversation that will make us better. And one of the most simple things that came out of it was learning the challenge of keys. and the fact that they had the key situation just wasn't what it should be. And they were wasting time kind of sharing keys and running keys back and forth. And by the next week, I'd solved that problem, which I believe then the next time that we had coffee, they realized I would listen, I would make a change, and they could bring a little bit bigger challenge.
Right.
And so that's been really great. It's been fun. I think one of the other things that I learn, this is important to us, is getting everyone's name right. So their name correctly spelled, the nickname they want, which is not as easy as you would expect. So just making sure that everybody's name is right. Like, is your name right on your name tag? Did we take care of that for you? And as much as we talk about it, those things fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
They really do.
They really do.
I think I'm really passionate about that. I have this funny story I'll share. Years ago, we had a resident, his name was William.
Right.
And it was in our building that was all mental health, and so some behavioral challenges. And he would sit outside the office with his wife, Joan, and we probably took care of him about a year, and we called him William. That was his name on his chart. That was the name on his door. That was his name. And one day he was really agitated, and he just started yelling and saying, "I am not William, I'm Bill." And I had the most sinking feeling in my heart that for a year we had been using the wrong name for this gentleman. And people will just let you do that. They'll just let you just continue saying the wrong name until they don't. And I decided that day, that's never going to happen again. It's never going to happen again. We're going to spell names correctly. We're going to use the right name. We're going to make sure that we know what people want. So it's, like I said, is asking the right questions. So the in-person survey, usually then I go back to the leader of the community and I share with them what I learned, and we make changes.
I love that. The other day, Mike, Jessica, Jody, and I were having breakfast at the Dorian, and I got there first, and the server comes over to me and she says, "Hi, what's your name?" I'm like, I've never been asked by a server. I'm like, "I'm Joe," and we had a good conversation. And then as she's coming back to the table, she says, "Would you like any more coffee, Joe?" And she knew my name, and I'm like, man, this is like, and it, as simple as it is, just knowing the person's name, but it made a huge impact on my day, and I'm thinking about it 4 days later. So there you go.
Yeah, I had the same server. Yeah, she was pretty
cool, right?
pretty phenomenal. Absolutely, it definitely created a connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Crystal Miller, thank you so much for joining Cup of Joe.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it being here. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for watching Cup of Joe. Crystal, how can people get in touch with you if they'd like to learn a little bit more?
You can find me at crystal@frontidacare.com, or of course on LinkedIn, Crystal J. Miller.
Amazing. And if you want to learn anything more about Citizen and anything that we're doing, you can reach out to me directly, 403-903-3703, or joe@citizen55.com. Thank you so much. Amazing.